The rain started falling before dawn. Not the soft kind of rain that comforted lonely people at night, but the cold, violent kind that made soul feel empty. Black luxury cars lined the road, leading toward the massive funeral hall owned by the powerful Kong family. Men in dark suits stood outside like statues while reporters crowded behind barricades, desperate for one photo, one rumor, one sign that the dead man inside might still be alive. Because men like Kong Min-jae were not supposed to die. Not suddenly, not quietly, and definitely not at 34 years old. Inside the grand funeral hall, expensive flowers covered every wall. Politicians bowed respectfully. Business executives pretended to mourn. Distant relatives whispered about inheritance money before the ceremony had even begun. But near the front of the room, beside the large black coffin decorated with white lilies, one person was crying for real. A young African Maid in a simple black dress sat on the floor beside the coffin with trembling shoulders and swollen red eyes. Her name was Zara, and unlike everyone else in the room, she looked completely broken. "You promised you'd rest after this project," she whispered softly while tears rolled down her cheeks. "You said you were only tired." Her fingers tightened around the folded handkerchief she had secretly kept after washing his suits weeks ago. Nobody noticed her grief. Nobody cared. One woman whispered cruelly, "Why is the maid acting like she lost her husband?" Quiet laughter followed. But Zara ignored them. Because the man inside that coffin was the only person in that mansion who had ever treated her like a human being. What nobody inside that funeral hall knew was that Kong Min-jae was standing only a few feet away from her. Alive, hidden beneath a worker's uniform and a blackface mask. Watching everything. And for the first time in years, the feared Korean Mafia boss felt his chest ache. Because among hundreds of fake mourners, greedy relatives, and smiling traitors pretending to cry, only one person truly loved him enough to cry beside his coffin. And what he discovered about her that day would change both of their lives forever. If you love Korean billionaire romance and mafia love stories like this, subscribe now to Official_Threads and turn on notifications so you never miss our next story. 3 days earlier, Kong Min-jae was supposed to be dead. At least that was the plan. The explosion happened just after midnight near the Han River. His armored vehicle had erupted into flames while crossing an empty bridge, and within minutes, every news station in South Korea reported the same thing. Kong Min-jae, the ruthless CEO of the Daehan Group and rumored underground mafia leader, had died in a tragic attack. But the explosion had been staged. Because Min-jae already knew someone close to him wanted him gone. For months, strange things had been happening inside his empire. Financial reports disappearing. Trusted men suddenly changing behavior. Secret meetings ending the moment he entered rooms. And worst of all, someone had leaked one of his shipment routes to a rival organization. 3 of his men died that night. Min-jae never forgot betrayal, especially betrayal from inside. So he created the perfect trap. Fake his death, disappear, and watch carefully to see who celebrated first. Only 4 people knew the truth. His loyal doctor, his childhood bodyguard, an old family attorney, and Min-jae himself. Everything else was real. The burnt car, the mourning, the chaos, the inheritance war beginning behind closed doors. He planned to observe quietly for 1 week before exposing the traitor. Simple, cold, strategic. At least, that was the original plan. Until he saw Zara crying beside his coffin. Because before that moment, Kong Min-jae barely remembered her name. He had seen her many times inside the mansion, always carrying laundry, cleaning silently, avoiding eye contact. The other servants treated her terribly because she was foreign and quiet. They blamed her whenever things went missing. They mocked her accent. They gave her the hardest work in the mansion. And every single time Min-jae walked past her, she bowed respectfully without expecting kindness in return. That was all. Or at least, that was what he thought. But what he didn't know was, Zara had noticed everything about him long before his funeral. She noticed how he never ate dinner before midnight, how he stared silently at the city during thunderstorms, how he drank coffee even when his hands trembled from exhaustion, how loneliness followed him through hallways bigger than most people's homes. She noticed the pain hidden behind his cold eyes. And slowly, without permission, without reason, she began caring about a man she was never supposed to even speak to. Meanwhile, danger was already approaching. At the funeral hall entrance, Min-jae quietly lowered his head while pushing a cleaning cart through the hallway. Nobody paid attention to workers. That was exactly why he chose the disguise. His sharp eyes moved carefully across the room. His uncle looked nervous. His younger cousin looked excited. Several executives were already discussing company shares. Pathetic. Min-jae almost felt disappointed by how quickly people exposed themselves after his death. But then, his attention returned to Zara. She had not moved from beside the coffin for nearly an hour. And there was something painfully sincere about the way she cried. Not dramatic. Not loud. Just heartbreak. Real heartbreak. Min-jae frowned slightly beneath his mask. Why? Why would a maid cry like that for him? He tried remembering their conversations. There were barely any. Maybe 2 or 3 short exchanges. One morning, she quietly offered him an umbrella during heavy rain. Another time, she reminded him to take medicine after overhearing his doctor. That was all. So why did she look like she had lost the only person who ever mattered to her? Before he could think further, loud voices interrupted the ceremony. We should discuss the chairman's assets immediately. Min-jae recognized the voice instantly. Kang Sung-ho, his cousin, a man who smiled too much and respected nobody. Several relatives began arguing quietly near the back room while pretending to stay dignified for reporters. And then Min-jae noticed something disturbing. Sung-ho was not grieving at all. In fact, he looked relieved. Min-jae's eyes darkened. Interesting. But what happens next changes everything. As Zara slowly stood from beside the coffin, one of the senior housekeepers blocked her path. You've embarrassed this family enough, the woman snapped quietly. Go back to the servants' quarters. Zara lowered her eyes immediately. I just wanted to say goodbye. You're a maid, the woman whispered harshly. Know your place. Several nearby guests smirked. Min-jae's jaw tightened. For some reason, hearing those words irritated him far more than the inheritance arguments. Zara bowed softly and turned away. But as she walked toward the hallway, a folded paper slipped from her sleeve onto the floor. She didn't notice. Min-jae did. Carefully, after everyone moved away, he picked it up. It was a handwritten note. The paper trembled slightly in his hand as he opened it. And for the first time in many years, Kang Min-jae forgot how to breathe. Because the note was addressed to him. Dear Mr. Kang, I know you probably never noticed me properly, and maybe that is for the best. But I still wanted to thank you. Thank you for paying for my mother's surgery last winter without telling anyone it was you. Thank you for pretending not to notice when I cried in the garden that night. Thank you for always leaving extra food untouched whenever you realized I skipped meals. People think cold people have no hearts. But I think people like you are simply tired of being hurt. I hope one day you rest properly, even if nobody else sees how hard you try. Zara. Min-jae stared silently at the paper. Confusion slowly mixed with guilt. He remembered the surgery now. One of the staff files mentioned a maid desperately requesting an advance payment for a family emergency overseas. The accounting department rejected it automatically. Min-jae approved it absent-mindedly during a late-night review meeting. He never even checked her face afterward. And the food. He had noticed several servants skipping meals because senior staff controlled kitchen portions cruelly. Leaving food behind had simply been easier than confronting everyone directly. But Zara thought he did it for her. Something strange twisted painfully inside his chest. Meanwhile, Sung-ho quietly watched Zara from across the room. And his expression suddenly changed after noticing the missing paper in her hand. Panic. Just for a second. But Min-jae noticed. Then Sung-ho quickly walked toward another executive and whispered something urgently. Min-jae's instincts sharpened immediately. The note. Something about that note mattered. And Zara didn't even realize it yet. Outside the funeral hall, rain continued pouring across Seoul as the ceremony finally ended. Guests slowly left. Reporters disappeared. The flowers began wilting under the cold weather. But Min-jae remained hidden nearby, watching Zara carefully. She exited through the servants' entrance carrying trash bags alone while the other workers ignored her. Even now, after crying all day, she was still working. Why? Why did that bother him so much? He followed quietly from a distance as she walked toward the mansion staff quarters several streets away. The Daehan mansion stood high above the city like a fortress, beautiful from outside, lonely from inside. Zara entered through the back gate carrying cleaning supplies while several servants whispered as she passed. She cried like his widow. So shameless. I heard she was obsessed with him. Zara pretended not to hear any of it. But Min-jae noticed how tightly she gripped the supplies in her hands afterward. She was hurt. And somehow he hated seeing that. What she didn't know was, someone else had already begun watching her too. Late that night, inside a hidden office beneath an abandoned hotel, Min-jae sat silently across from his most trusted bodyguard, Lee Hyun-woo. The cousin, Hyun-woo asked carefully. Maybe, Min-jae answered quietly. But something's missing. Hyun-woo nodded slowly. We also found suspicious calls from the mansion landline. To who? Unknown burner numbers. Min-jae leaned back silently. His mind should have focused entirely on the betrayal investigation. But instead, he kept thinking about Zara's tears. Annoying. Distracting. Dangerous. Feelings made people weak. He learned that lesson young. After his father's violent death years earlier, Min-jae buried every emotional part of himself to survive inside the brutal underworld of power, money, and betrayal. Trust nobody. Need nobody. Love nobody. Those rules kept him alive. So why was one quiet maid suddenly breaking through walls he built for years? Meanwhile, inside the servants' quarters, Zara sat alone beside a tiny window staring at the rain. The mansion felt colder without him, and she hated herself for feeling that way, because she knew her feelings were foolish. Impossible. A man like Kang Min-jae belonged to another world entirely. Powerful people didn't notice women like her. Still, her chest hurt unbearably. She slowly opened a small wooden box hidden beneath her bed. Inside were tiny memories connected to him. A handkerchief, an old medicine receipt, a coffee sleeve he once held during a meeting. Small meaningless things to everyone else. Treasures to her. But suddenly, her eyes widened. The handwritten note. It was gone. Panic flooded her instantly. No. She searched everywhere desperately. Her bag. Her uniform pockets. The hallway. Nothing. And what she didn't know was, that missing note was about to place her directly in the middle of a deadly betrayal hidden inside the Kang Empire. The next morning, Zara woke early before sunrise to prepare breakfast for the remaining family members staying at the mansion. The atmosphere inside Daehan Mansion had changed completely after Min-jae's death. Everyone became greedier, crueler, louder. Relatives wandered through private offices searching for documents while executives argued openly in hallways. Even the servants looked nervous. Because when powerful men die, everyone beneath them suffers first. Zara quietly carried tea trays through the dining room while avoiding eye contact. But before she could leave, Sung-ho suddenly stopped her. Wait. His voice sounded casual. Too casual. Zara froze immediately. Yes, sir. Sung-ho smiled politely, but his eyes remained cold. You were very emotional at the funeral yesterday. Several people nearby looked toward them instantly. Zara lowered her gaze. I'm sorry if I behaved improperly. Improperly? Sung-ho laughed softly. No, I'm simply curious. He stepped closer. Why exactly were you crying so much for my cousin? The room became silent. Zara's fingers tightened around the tray. I respected him. Only respected? Sung-ho asked carefully. Something about his tone made her uncomfortable. I appreciated his kindness. Sung-ho watched her closely for several seconds. Then he smiled again. You work near his office often, right? Yes, sir. Did you ever see unusual documents? Meetings? Conversations? Zara blinked in confusion. No. You're sure? Yes. For a brief moment, irritation flashed across his face. Then he stepped away casually. You may go. But as Zara turned toward the kitchen, she overheard him whisper something quietly to another executive. Keep watching her. Fear crawled slowly into her chest. Meanwhile, hidden inside a surveillance van parked across the mansion gates, Min-jae heard every word through a listening device. His expression darkened immediately. So Sung-ho was definitely nervous about Zara. But why? Min-jae replayed the conversation carefully inside his mind. Then suddenly, he remembered something important. 3 weeks before the explosion, he had held a secret late-night meeting inside his private office regarding missing company funds. Zara had been cleaning nearby that night. At the time, he ignored her completely. But maybe she accidentally overheard something. And if Sung-ho believed that too, then Zara was already in danger. This decision would soon change everything. That evening, heavy rain returned again as Zara walked alone toward a nearby convenience store after work. The streets looked nearly empty. Cold wind pushed against her coat while neon lights reflected across wet pavement. She tried calming herself. Maybe she was overthinking things. Maybe Sung-ho was simply suspicious by nature. But deep down, something felt wrong. Then suddenly, A black car slowed beside her. Zara immediately stepped back nervously. The tinted window lowered slightly. "Get in." Her heart nearly stopped. Because even beneath the baseball cap and face mask, she recognized those eyes instantly. Kang Min-jae. Alive. Zara stumbled backward in shock. "No." Her lips trembled violently. "No, you." Min-jae quickly opened the back door. "Get inside before someone sees you." Her mind stopped working. Dead people were not supposed to speak. Dead people were not supposed to look at you like this. But something in his voice felt urgent enough to overpower her fear. Slowly, she entered the car. The moment the door closed, silence filled the vehicle. Zara stared at him with wide, tearful eyes while trying to breathe normally. "You're alive." Min-jae removed his mask carefully. "Yes." Tears immediately filled her eyes again. For several seconds, she simply stared at him like someone witnessing a miracle. Then suddenly, she hit his shoulder weakly. "You're cruel." Min-jae froze. "I thought you died." Another tear rolled down her cheek. "I cried for days." Min-jae said nothing. Because nobody had ever reacted to his survival like this before. No relief about money. No questions about power. No selfishness. Just pure emotion. And somehow, that affected him more than it should have. "I'm sorry," he said quietly. Zara looked shocked again. Men like Kang Min-jae probably never apologized to anyone. But what she didn't know was, Min-jae himself barely recognized the man sitting beside her anymore. Because for the first time in years, he was beginning to care about someone more than revenge. And that would soon become the most dangerous thing of all. Inside the dark car, neither of them spoke for several seconds. Rain continued hitting the windows softly, while Seoul's lights blurred around them like distant memories. Zara still could not fully believe what she was seeing. Kang Min-jae was alive. The same man whose funeral she attended. The same man she cried for beside a coffin. The same man whose death shattered something inside her heart. Alive, breathing, looking directly at her. And somehow, even more exhausted than before. "You really scared me," she whispered weakly. Min-jae lowered his eyes briefly. "I know." No long explanation followed. No dramatic speech. Just those two simple words. And strangely enough, that honesty affected her more than excuses would have. Meanwhile, Min-jae was struggling with something unfamiliar himself. Peace. For weeks, his mind had been consumed by betrayal, hidden enemies, financial sabotage, and power games inside the Daehan Empire. But sitting beside Zara inside that quiet car, everything suddenly felt still. Dangerous men feared him. Politicians obeyed him. Executives bowed before him. Yet none of those things had ever made him feel human the way one crying maid just did. But what happens next changes everything. The car slowly pulled into an underground parking garage beneath an old apartment building far from the mansion. Min-jae stepped out first before motioning quietly for Zara to follow him. She hesitated slightly, not because she feared him, but because nothing made sense anymore. "You can trust me," he said softly without looking back. Those words should not have felt comforting coming from a man feared across Seoul. Yet somehow they did. The apartment upstairs was simple and quiet. No luxury decorations. No bodyguards. No massive windows overlooking the city. Just a small hidden safe house with dim lights and the smell of black coffee lingering in the air. Zara looked around carefully. "This is where you've been hiding?" For now. Min-jae removed his coat slowly before walking toward the kitchen counter. "You should sit." But Zara remained standing. "Why did you fake your death?" Straight to the point. Min-jae almost smiled slightly. Most people around him spent entire conversations trying not to offend him. But Zara always spoke with quiet honesty. "Someone inside my organization tried to kill me," he answered calmly. "I needed them to believe they succeeded." Her expression changed instantly. "So the explosion was planned. And the funeral? Also planned." Zara slowly sat down, trying to process everything. Then suddenly, her eyes widened. "The questions your cousin asked me." Min-jae nodded. "He thinks you know something. But I don't." "I know." He stepped closer before placing a warm cup of tea in front of her. "But he doesn't know that." Zara looked down silently. Fear slowly returned to her chest. "Am I in danger?" Min-jae answered honestly. "Yes." The room became quiet again. Most people would panic hearing that answer. But Zara simply nodded slowly, as if life had already taught her fear long ago. And that realization hurt Min-jae more than expected. What kind of life forces someone to become this calm around danger, he thought silently. Meanwhile, Zara carefully studied him for the first time without distance between them. Without mansion rules. Without servants watching. Without titles separating them. And suddenly she noticed things she never saw clearly before. The dark circles beneath his eyes. The exhaustion hidden beneath his calm expression. The loneliness. Even now, while hiding from enemies, he looked more emotionally tired than physically tired. "You haven't been sleeping," she said softly. Min-jae blinked slightly. Most people only noticed his power. Zara noticed his exhaustion. "I'm fine. You always say that." The words slipped out before she could stop herself. Min-jae looked at her carefully. "Always." Zara immediately became embarrassed. "I just meant, when you worked late at the mansion. You paid attention to me that much?" Her cheeks warmed instantly. "I wasn't spying." For the first time in years, a genuine smile almost appeared on Min-jae's face. Small, brief, but real. And Zara noticed it immediately. Her heartbeat betrayed her at once. Because cold men smiling softly always looked more dangerous than angry men. What she didn't know was, Min-jae was beginning to feel something equally dangerous too. Comfort. Late that night, after Zara finally fell asleep on the apartment couch from emotional exhaustion, Min-jae stood quietly near the window overlooking the rainy streets below. His bodyguard, Hyun-woo, entered silently. "You brought her here?" he asked carefully. "Yes." "That's risky." Min-jae remained silent. Hyun-woo studied him closely for a moment, then sighed softly. "You care about her?" Min-jae's jaw tightened immediately. "No." "Min-jae. She's connected to the investigation." "That's not what I meant." Silence followed. Because both men knew the truth already. The feared Mafia boss who trusted nobody was becoming emotionally attached to the one person he should avoid most. And feelings always created weakness. But what Hyun-woo didn't say aloud was, this was also the first time he had seen Min-jae act like a normal human being in years. Meanwhile, danger was already approaching. Inside Daehan Mansion, Sung-ho sat inside Min-jae's old office with visible frustration. The missing note still bothered him, because he remembered seeing Zara holding something at the funeral. And if she truly overheard part of the financial meeting weeks earlier, then she might unknowingly connect him to the missing funds. "Find out where she went tonight," he ordered coldly. One of the servants nodded nervously. "Yes, sir." Sung-ho slowly leaned back in Min-jae's chair. For years he lived beneath his cousin's shadow. The powerful heir, the respected leader, the untouchable Kang Min-jae. But now, everything belonged to him. Or at least it would soon. Yet deep down, something still terrified him. Because no matter how carefully the fake mourning continued, part of him feared Min-jae might somehow still be alive. The next morning, Zara woke up confused for several seconds before remembering everything. The funeral, the secret, the fake death. Min-jae. Her eyes slowly moved toward the kitchen. And there he was, standing quietly while making coffee in rolled-up sleeves. The sight felt strangely domestic. Dangerously domestic. She quickly looked away before he noticed her staring. "Too late. You're awake." His deep voice immediately made her nervous again. "Yes. You should eat." "I'm okay. That's not a meal." She blinked in surprise. Because the breakfast table already contained warm soup, rice, fruit, and tea. "You made this." "I can cook." That somehow shocked her more than the fake funeral. Min-jae noticed her expression. "What? You just don't look like someone who cooks. And you don't look like someone who cries beside Mafia bosses' coffins." Zara nearly choked on her tea. Min-jae looked away afterward, hiding the faint amusement in his eyes. But the tension between them had already changed. Softer now, warmer, and much more dangerous. As the morning continued, Min-jae finally explained everything properly. The missing money inside Daehan Group, the hidden betrayal, the staged death, the internal investigation. Zara listened carefully, then suddenly remembered something important. "That night outside your office." Min-jae looked toward her immediately. "You remember something?" "I heard two men arguing after midnight while cleaning nearby." His expression sharpened instantly. "What did they say?" One voice mentioned shipping accounts and emergency transfers. The other person sounded angry. "Could you recognize the voices?" Zara hesitated, then slowly nodded. "One sounded like your cousin." Min-jae's eyes darkened. Confirmation. Finally. But Zara continued speaking carefully. "There was another thing too." "What?" "I saw someone leave your office after everyone disappeared." "Who?" She frowned slightly while remembering. "I don't know his name. but he wore silver cufflinks with a dragon symbol. Min Jae froze instantly, because only one executive inside Daehan Group wore that symbol. Director Choi, his late father's oldest business partner. The man Min Jae trusted almost like family. For the first time since faking his death, real disappointment crossed his face. And Zara noticed immediately. You trusted him. Not a question. A realization. Min Jae looked away quietly. Yes. Betrayal from enemies was expected. Betrayal from family felt different. And suddenly Zara understood something painful about him. Why he looked so emotionally distant all the time. Why loneliness followed him everywhere. Because the higher powerful people climbed, the less they knew who truly loved them. But what she didn't know was, she was already becoming the answer to that loneliness. Days passed quietly inside the safe house. And slowly, something beautiful began forming between them. Not dramatic, not rushed, just small moments. Human moments. Zara organizing his medicine without asking. Min Jae waiting for her to finish eating before leaving the table. Late-night conversations beside rainy windows. Silent comfort. Soft laughter appearing unexpectedly. And for the first time in many years, Min Jae began looking forward to mornings. One evening, while Zara folded laundry near the couch, the apartment lights suddenly went out during a thunderstorm. The room became dark instantly. Zara froze. Min Jae noticed immediately. You're afraid of thunder? A little. Another loud crack echoed outside. Without thinking, she moved slightly closer to him, then immediately looked embarrassed afterward. I'm sorry, but Min Jae simply stood quietly beside her. Close enough to comfort her, not close enough to scare her. And somehow, that restraint touched her deeply. You really aren't the man people think you are, she whispered softly. Min Jae looked toward the storm outside. Maybe they're right. No. Her voice remained gentle. Bad people don't notice when others are hurting. Those words hit him harder than bullets ever could. Because nobody had ever tried understanding him before. Not truly. Suddenly the lights returned. But neither of them moved away immediately. And in that quiet moment, everything between them changed. Meanwhile, back inside Daehan Mansion, Sung-ho's paranoia worsened daily. Because Zara had disappeared completely. And nobody could locate her. She knows something, he muttered angrily. Director Choi remained calmer. Then we monitor quietly. No, Sung-ho snapped. If Min Jae left evidence with her, he's dead. But even Choi sounded uncertain saying it now. Because strange things had started happening inside the company. Anonymous files leaked. Secret financial records exposed. Corrupt executives suddenly resigning overnight. Someone was attacking carefully from the shadows. And only one man inside South Korea operated with that level of patience. Kang Min Jae. Meanwhile, Min Jae prepared his final move carefully. Not revenge through violence. Not bloodshed. Exposure. Public humiliation. Complete destruction of the traitors' reputations. Because he understood something important now. He was tired. Tired of death. Tired of endless brutality. Tired of living like a machine incapable of warmth. And strangely enough, Zara became the reason he wanted something different. One quiet evening, while reviewing documents together, Zara finally asked the question she had been hiding for days. What happens after this? Min Jae looked up slowly. When the traitors are exposed. Silence followed. Because both of them understood the real meaning behind her question. What happens to us? Min Jae walked slowly toward the window. For people like me, peaceful endings are rare. Zara's chest tightened painfully. Do you want one? He looked toward her quietly. And for the first time in years, the feared Mafia boss answered honestly. Yes. Her eyes softened instantly. Then slowly, very carefully, she stepped closer. So stop living like you deserve punishment. Min Jae stared at her silently. Nobody had ever spoken to him that way before. Not with fear. Not with greed. Just sincerity. Then softly, almost cautiously, he touched her hand. Zara's breath caught instantly. The world outside disappeared completely. No power. No mansion. No betrayal. Just two lonely people finding warmth inside each other's broken worlds. And then, Min Jae kissed her. Gentle. Careful. Like a man terrified she might disappear. Zara closed her eyes immediately as tears threatened to return again. Because deep down, she had loved him quietly long before that moment. And now the impossible was finally happening. But what they didn't know was, someone had already photographed them together outside the apartment building days earlier. And the truth about Min Jae's survival was about to explode across Seoul. The next morning, headlines spread through private media channels like wildfire. Kang Min Jae may still be alive. Hidden photos, blurry surveillance images, anonymous leaks. The entire city erupted with rumors instantly. Inside the apartment, Hyun-woo looked furious. We've been exposed. Min Jae remained calm. Expected. But they know about Zara now too. The atmosphere changed immediately. Because until now, Zara had only been emotionally connected to the danger. Now she was directly tied to it publicly. Min Jae's expression darkened. And for the first time, fear appeared in his eyes. Not fear for himself. Fear for her. That realization alone shocked him deeply. Meanwhile, online comments exploded viciously. Who is the woman beside him? A maid. She manipulated him for money. Gold digger. Cruel words spread everywhere. Zara quietly stared at the phone screen while trying not to react. But Min Jae saw the pain in her eyes immediately. Without hesitation, he took the phone away. Don't read that garbage. But maybe they're right. His expression hardened instantly. No. The single word carried enough certainty to silence every insecurity inside her. Then he stepped closer. You were beside my coffin when everyone else cared about inheritance money. His voice softened slightly. You are the only honest thing I found after my death. Zara's eyes filled instantly. And in that moment, Min Jae finally understood something terrifying. He loved her. Completely. Meanwhile, the final confrontation approached. Not with guns. Not with violence. But with truth. 2 nights later, Daehan Group held an emergency executive meeting after growing public chaos surrounding Min Jae's possible survival. Every major shareholder attended. Executives whispered nervously. Reporters crowded outside. And Sung-ho sat confidently at the head of the table pretending calmness. Until the conference doors opened. Silence swallowed the room instantly. Because Kang Min Jae walked inside alive. Several executives nearly stood up in shock. One woman screamed softly. Sung-ho's face lost all color. And Director Choi looked like he had seen a ghost. Min Jae walked slowly toward the center of the room with terrifying calmness. You all seem surprised, he said quietly. Nobody answered. Because dead men were not supposed to return. Min Jae placed several documents onto the table. Bank transfers. Hidden accounts. Illegal diversions. Everything connected directly to Sung-ho and Director Choi. I trusted both of you, he said calmly. Sung-ho immediately stood up. You can't prove. I already did. His voice remained cold. Controlled. Final. Then Min Jae revealed the hidden recordings, financial evidence, and witness testimony gathered during his fake death. The room erupted instantly. Executives shouted. Lawyers panicked. Security moved quickly. And within minutes, the 2 men who betrayed him lost everything publicly. Not through bloodshed, but humiliation, exposure, truth. And somehow, that ending felt more satisfying than revenge ever could. Later that night, after the chaos finally settled, Min Jae stood alone outside the building beneath soft falling rain. For the first time in years, the weight on his shoulders felt lighter. Then footsteps approached quietly behind him. Zara. She held an umbrella above both of them silently. You should rest now, she whispered. Min Jae looked at her carefully, then suddenly asked the question hiding inside him for weeks. What if I don't want to do this anymore? This. The violence. The power games. The endless paranoia. Zara smiled softly. Then don't. It's not that simple. Maybe not, she admitted gently. But people change every day. She stepped closer. You changed too. Min Jae stared at her silently. Because she was right. The man standing there now was no longer the same cold person who attended his own funeral weeks earlier. Love had changed him quietly. Softly. Completely. Several months later, Daehan Group looked entirely different. Corrupt executives disappeared. Internal systems changed. And for the first time, employees no longer feared entering the building. As for Min Jae, he slowly stepped away from the darker side of his empire. Not instantly. Not perfectly. But genuinely. And every difficult step became easier because Zara remained beside him through all of it. Not as a servant. Not as someone beneath him. But as the woman he loved openly. One quiet evening, while walking beside the Han River where his fake death once began, Min Jae suddenly stopped walking. Zara looked confused. What's wrong? Instead of answering, he slowly knelt down. Her eyes widened instantly. In his hand sat a small ring shining beneath city lights. I spent years believing love was weakness, he admitted quietly. His eyes softened. But then a girl cried beside my coffin when everyone else wanted my money. Zara immediately covered her mouth as tears filled her eyes. And somehow, that girl brought me back to life. Her tears finally fell freely again. Not from grief this time, but happiness. Pure happiness. Zara. His voice trembled slightly for the first time. Will you stay with me? She laughed softly through tears before nodding immediately. Yes. And as Soul's lights reflected beautifully across the river beside them, the man who once attended his own funeral finally understood something important. Sometimes people survive death physically, but love is what truly brings them back to life. This story teaches that real love is not built on status, wealth, or power. While greedy relatives and fake allies surrounded Kang Min-jae during his death, the only genuine loyalty came from someone society considered insignificant. Zara's sincerity healed years of emotional isolation inside a man feared by everyone around him. The story also shows that betrayal can harden people, but kindness and honest love still have the power to change even the coldest hearts. In the end, Min-jae did not find peace through revenge or violence, but through trust, healing, and choosing a different life beside someone who truly saw him as human. If you made it this far, let us know where you're watching from, and comment your favorite moment below, like this video, and subscribe to _Threads for more emotional Mafia love stories.